This kid actually tried to outscale magic itself. In a brutal world where spellcasters hold all the cards, being magicless basically makes you trash. Enter Oscar. He is an absolute prodigy with a blade, a literal sword saint, but his mana pool non-existent. That is, until he gets regression powers and wakes up years in the past. Back when he was just a powerless kid. Fast forward to now, this tactical genius just rolled into the academy, ready to utterly demolish every single student in his path. A massive beast eclipses the blazing skyline, raining absolute hellfire and chaos down on the burning city streets. Civilians are scrambling, fighting tooth and nail just to survive. Staring down this apocalyptic nightmare, a lone caster and a heavily armed brawler gear up to hold the line. Channeling pure mana, the spellcaster grips his glowing staff. Complex runes flare to life in the air. Spell locked and loaded, he braces himself to drop a massive nuke of energy. A barrage of lethal strikes blasts the airborne titan, but the beast just tanks the massive damage, dive-bombing them with pure unadulterated rage. The spell detonates with catastrophic force, yet it barely leaves a scratch. In the distance, a squad of casters watch in absolute horror. Realizing their ultimate move completely flopped, the Leviathan immediately swoops in, charging up a devastating counterstrike. The brawler dashes forward, sinking a savage point-blank blow straight into the monster's torso. Snap! His heavy-duty blade shatters into a million pieces. Panic sets in. The dude is absolutely stunned by the beast's insane defense stats. And with zero hesitation, the monster whips back with a vicious swipe right in his face. He takes the brutal hit dead on, getting launched across the battlefield like a rag doll. Seeing his vanguard wiped out, the rookie totally loses it. It is game over. But right then, a high-tier Blade Master crashes the scene, backed by his elite support squad, ready to slay this raid boss. He locks onto the beast. Launching himself from the rubble, he unleashes a razor-sharp, blindingly fast slash. A direct critical hit right to the chest. The impact is so heavy, the Colossus actually staggers backward, shrieking in pure agony. Reflected in the beast's massive eye, you can see the swordsman expertly severing a critical weak point. Touching down flawlessly, he watches the massive silhouette dissolve into ash. Fight one, he just casually spins around and clicks his sword back into its scabbard, dropping the ultimate face reveal. It is Oscar, the legendary sword saint himself, mobbed by the traumatized survivors. They are practically worshipping him for the clutch save, but he brushes them off, telling the local knights to handle the cleanup. Tuning out their endless praise, he gives them the cold shoulder and walks away, striding past a shivering father and son duo. A sudden flashback hits him like a truck. In the hazy memory, a little girl is completely mesmerized, calling the glowing lights beautiful. An older dude gently smiles, explaining that this miracle is called magic. Flicking his wand, he conjures a breathtaking storm of stardust that dances through the air. But even surrounded by this awe, Oscar's eyes looked completely dead inside, lost in thought. Flash forward, the rescued family is staring at his insane combat prowess like he is a god. Pure hero worship, just like that starry-eyed little girl from his past. They were captivated by the exact same spectacle. And kid Oscar, he used to watch that sparkling magic with the biggest, dopest smile on his face, because no matter how insanely overpowered he got with a sword, he was still hopelessly obsessed with casting spells. Back in the day, he could barely spark a tiny flame in his palms. Smash cut to an isolated mountain peak, where his daily bone-crushing grind begins. Gripping a beat-up wooden blade, he squares up for yet another brutal set. He swings. A terrifying arc of pure muscle and speed absolutely shreds through the wind. Off to the side, two rookies are low-key sweating as they watch their master go beast mode, totally isolated out in the dirt. Mind blown, the girl asks if he seriously grinds like this every single day. And the boy just nods. Decades of unyielding reps have literally crushed the bedrock beneath his stance. He explains that the master's relentless swings actually carved out that massive crater, tuning out their chatter. Oscar just pivots coldly, hoisting his blade high for another strike. The girl jolts, totally caught off guard by his intense aura. Oscar glances over, asking what the hell is written on the scroll she is clutching. Her brain finally clicks. She starts shouting at her master, sprinting across the dust toward him. "Master, an official dispatch from the capital," she yells out, scanning over the fancy royal wax seal. The rookie nervously asks if they are in deep trouble. Oscar just sighs, saying they are trying to give him a medal, and groans, complaining that these royals really need to check his tight training schedule first. She giggles, pointing out that with his insane kill count, he could easily secure a crazy high-ranking government seat, rolling his eyes at the toxic political drama. He shoots that idea down, saying a fancy palace would totally ruin his hardcore training routine. The student then fires back, mentioning that he must be absolutely obsessed with the blade. Glancing sideways, he chews on her words, letting the heavy silence stretch. A faint, bitter smile tugs at his lips. He casually drops a massive bombshell about his dark past, admitting he actually isn't that hyped about it. Turns out picking up a weapon wasn't his dream. It was a strict order shoved down his throat by his father. The student, utterly shell-shocked. Her jaw basically hits the floor. He doubles down, confirming that the swordsman lifestyle was totally forced on him. Locking eyes with her, he confesses he is actually super jealous of her raw natural talent. She instantly fires back that enrolling in the academy was 100% her own choice. But right now, she is terrified. Gripping her uniform until her knuckles turn white, her intense anxiety totally bleeds through. See, here is the wild lore drop mages and swordsmen. Channel their power through entirely different energy circuits. Crossing those streams, it literally triggers a catastrophic full-body meltdown. Because of that deadly catch, picking your class, resting a heavy reassuring hand on her shoulder, the master tries to ground his panicking rookie. He drops some classic mentor wisdom telling her that whenever the anxiety creeps in, flashing a bright smile, she nods in agreement, super grateful for her master pulling her out of her spiral. Cut to later that night. The master is sprawled out on his bed completely alone in the dark. Guilt eats at him. He feels like a total hypocrite for feeding his student that pep talk. Replaying the conversation, her praise about his insane talent echoes in his mind. Staring blankly at his calloused palms, he daydreams about what it would feel like to actually be gifted in magic instead. Muttering to himself, he echoes his own cheesy advice, basically forcing himself to just stick to the sword. Boom! A weird chilling aura spikes the air, snapping his eyes wide open. He glances toward the window just as a massive deafening explosion absolutely obliterates the front yard. Watching the cabin go up in roaring flames, a shady squad of cloaked mages creeps in the shadows from a distance. The squad leader grips his glowing staff, totally locked in for a bloodbath. One grunt whispers, "Did we smoke him?" But his partner sharply barks back to stay frosty. Swoosh! Exploding out of the blazing rubble, the master launches himself into the air, catching one of the casters completely off guard. Sprinting dead at the ambushers, his danger sense screams. These aren't low-level thugs. They are elite magic users. Scanning the chaos he aggressively hunts for. The shot caller of this freaky hit squad. Right on cue, the boss barks a cold command, ordering the entire firing squad to charge up their heavy spells. Gripping his hilt tight, our guy braces to take on the whole mob solo. Weaving through the lethal barrage, he aggressively vaults over magical blasts, lining up a nasty counteroffensive. Closing the gap in a blink, he delivers a brutal point straight into a cloaked goon. But right mid-swing, something catches the corner of his eye, and pure icy dread washes over his face. The twisted leader has the young student snatched up in a chokehold, violently threatening and demanding he drop his weapon immediately. Hogtied and muffled by a gag, the poor girl is shaking with sheer terror, completely traumatized by being used as human bait. Gritting his teeth, he demands to know their endgame. The boss smirks, "We just want your head." Utterly baffled, the master bites back that he has zero clue what he ever did to earn this insane amount of bad blood. Flashing a toxic smirk, the leader mocks him, "Yeah, figured you'd play dumb." A background lackey spits out the real truth: they simply cannot stand that some guy exists with such god-tier talent. Completely lost in the sauce, he yells, "What are you even talking about?" The smug boss just chuckles, telling him he doesn't need to do the math, because he is totally getting zeroed right here, right now. His eyes lock back onto his captured rookie, suddenly screaming through the gag. The fiercely loyal student begs her master to stop caring about her and just save himself. Catching that raw desperation, his gaze shifts into a look of absolute icy resolve. Gripping his broadsword tighter than ever, he coldly declares that everything just clicked. He sees the entire big picture now. Rattled by this sudden boss-level energy shift, the smug magic leader starts sweating, having no clue what is about to hit him. The master warns them their little ambush just crashed and burned, and that they really screwed up by sleeping on his student's insane grit. The scrub holding her hostage instantly starts panicking, realizing he messed with the wrong guy. Standing like a literal statue, the master deliberately turns his back, just as a barrage of hyper-lethal ice spikes comes tearing through the air straight for him. Bam! The frozen projectiles slam into his flesh with devastating force. A massive gritty dust cloud erupts from the brutal impact zone. The cocky boss is totally stunned as the smoke clears. Begrudgingly impressed, he drops a snarky comment about the rookie's insane guts, pulling off such a wildly suicidal move to break free. But wait, with his body absolutely shredded by the coughing up blood as he casually whispers, "That is just how you blade wielders roll." Watching her mentor bleed out, the girl scrambles over in absolute heart-shattering panic. Fully convinced they secured the kill, the mages walk off loudly trashing his wasted potential as they fade into the shadows. Sobbing violently, she begs to know why he threw it all away, tanking fatal damage just to keep her safe. Flashing one last warm smile, he weakly gasps out that he is a swordsman just like her, bawling her eyes out. She screams that she was totally ready to die in that crossfire too. She spirals into agonizing guilt, but he firmly cuts her off, swearing none of this was her fault. Refusing to accept reality, the broken-hearted girl clutches her dying master, her tears staining his ruined armor. Fighting the fade to black, he desperately tries to force out one final word, but his voice utterly fails him. As his vision blurs, a crushing silent regret consumes him. If only he had mastered magic, instead he could have cast a shield to truly keep her safe. In his fading thoughts, he finally admits that this entire magic, that was always his ultimate obsession. But to escape his harsh reality, he just mindlessly swung his blade over and over again without stopping. Despite all the insane hype and praise he got, his true dream never faded. Absolutely nothing could ever match that pure, raw, euphoric feeling. From when he first witnessed magic as a little kid, desperately reaching his tiny hand up toward the endless sky. Suddenly he wakes up in the middle of nowhere. He scrambles to his feet, staring blankly at his own hands, completely lost and totally freaking out. Clutching his aching head, a chilling realization hits him. Wait, wasn't he supposed to be dead? He drops back down, frantically scanning his surroundings, wondering what on earth is going on. As his eyes adjust to the scenery, a wave of intense nostalgia washes over him. No way. This is the dusty old village from his childhood. Flashes of his brutal death flood his mind, leaving him totally baffled as to why he's still breathing. Right next to his old sword, he spots a mysterious letter. What the heck is this doing here? Tearing the envelope open, his jaw practically drops. He absolutely cannot believe what's written inside. Gripping the heavy parchment, he realizes he's holding exclusive invitations from the top 2 most elite academies in the entire kingdom. You see, the second you turn 15, every kid gets drafted into either the Sorcery Institute or the Swordsmanship Academy. Once you lock in your choice, you have to personally deliver that letter straight to the academy gates. Clutching the invitation, he catches a glimpse of his own reflection. His mind starts racing. Did he actually just time travel back into the past? Boom! The terrifying truth slams into him. He is back to being a scrawny 14-year-old. Hearing heavy footsteps approaching, he stays completely frozen on the ground, his eyes glued to the dirt. Out of nowhere, his dad's booming voice echoes, calling his name and demanding to know what he's doing, sulking out here alone. Startled, the boy shoots up like a rocket. "Dad!" he gasps, absolutely shell-shocked. Seeing his father standing right there in the flesh, it finally clicks. If he really went back in time, that means his dad is alive. Scowling, his old man barks that he's looking way too cocky, and accuses him of slacking off on his grueling training just to daydream at the horizon. But the boy just stands there completely speechless, swallowing his words. Back in the day, his entire existence revolved around one agonizing thought. How the hell could he confess his desperate craving to learn magic to this terrifying man? Since his dad was a legendary swordmaster, he ran a massive dojo packed with fierce disciples. And as the master's blood son, he was basically forced into the brutal way of the blade from day one. A bitter memory flashes by. He's sprinting toward his dad, absolutely buzzing with hype, shouting about some. With starry eyes and a massive grin, the little boy ranted about how breathtakingly gorgeous and radiant the glowing spells were. But his dad's face went dead serious. He coldly spat that magic was nothing but a pathetic parlor trick for the weak. Gripping the kid's tiny shoulders, he violently ordered him to grab a sword, because that's what Too terrified to ditch the blade, he kept pushing through the agonizing physical training, completely burying his soul-crushing desire. Snapping back to reality, the boy straightens his posture. His eyes lock onto his future, burning with absolute unwavering resolve. Squeezing the hilt of his sword until his knuckles turn white, fueled by pure adrenaline, he vows that in this second life, he is going to carve out his own destiny and chase his real passion, no matter what. Breaking the silence, his dad sharply demands to know why he's been dodging his mandatory practice drills again. Tipping his head down, the boy mutters that he has already spent an entire grueling lifetime chained to that damn sword. Totally thrown off by that weird, heavy answer, his old man just glares at him, dead silent. Suddenly, the master unleashes his terrifying aura, manifesting dozens of lethal glowing energy blades spinning violently around him. One of the henchmen violently chokes under the suffocating pressure, getting brutally shoved back by the sheer raw power. The other 2 goons crash hard into the dirt, their legs completely giving out against the crushing gravity of the master's killing intent. But even facing that apocalyptic aura, the kid doesn't flinch. He stands completely still, unfazed. Gasping for air, one of the disciples watches in absolute awe. How the hell is he staying so calm? Shrugging off the monstrous pressure like it's nothing, the boy holds his ground, staring dead into his father's terrifying eyes without stepping back an inch. The master narrows his gaze, finally realizing his son isn't just throwing a tantrum. Dispersing his explosive energy, the old man smirks. "Looks like you weren't just goofing off after all." Stepping closer, he drops a heavy, rough hand onto his son's shoulder. Acknowledging the kid's undeniable grit, he proudly states that one day he just might be worthy enough to inherit the entire legendary dojo. Witnessing this massive badge of honor, the battered disciples glare up at the young heir, practically seething with toxic jealousy. Flashing a rare, fleeting grin, his dad turns his broad back and starts walking away. The boy just stands frozen in place, a whirlwind of crazy emotions tearing through his chest as he stares at the man he thought he'd lost forever. Suddenly, his legs move on their own. He sprints after him and violently tackles his dad into a desperate, bone-crushing back hug, pouring every ounce of his grief and relief into it. Later, 2 cocky older disciples corner the kid, sneering that they've been dying to catch up. Flashing a wildly punchable smirk, one of the jerks sarcastically offers to give him a brutal little sword lesson. A dark memory clicks in his brain. Oh yeah, they were supposed to be his designated sparring partners, the exact guys his dad forced him to cross blades with day in and day out. But the second those losers managed to awaken their aura, they instantly started treating him like absolute trash. They totally weaponize their sparring sessions using the training excuse to brutally beat him down and take out all their pathetic frustrations on him. But, snapping back to the present, the boy casually drops into his combat stance, staring the very same bully down. "Cut the crap and come at me already," he taunts coldly. The bully instantly channels a vicious surge of aura straight into his wooden katana. Back then, that overwhelming burst of raw energy created a massive, insurmountable power gap that pure technique just couldn't beat. Brushing off the challenge, he simply turns his back to the guy. Gripping his blade, he strolls straight toward the rushing river. Deep down, he's actually thankful for everything that's led to this moment. Meanwhile, the other guy is absolutely dumbfounded, totally thrown off by this bizarre reaction. With a casual toss, he chucks his sword right into the water. His rival stumbles back completely blindsided, screaming that he's nothing but a total coward. The peanut gallery goes wild, yelling and demanding to know if he's actually running away from a real fight. Boiling with rage, the guy barks that he's an absolute disgrace. Still facing the horizon, he leaves his back wide open, completely tuning out their toxic trash talk as the attacker gears up for a strike. Flashing a smirk, he casually drops a bomb. He's going to be a mage now, and his sword days are over, roaring that he won't hold back. The furious rival lunges forward with his wooden blade. Watching the strike unfold in slow motion, he instantly reads his former sparring partner's sloppy footwork. The rival violently channels aura to pump up his entire body, but with just a simple magic barrier, our guy effortlessly tanks the heavy hit, leaving his opponent totally shell-shocked. He mocks him, stating that weak stuff will never be enough to take him down. Foaming at the mouth, the rival grinds his teeth, refusing to swallow such brutal disrespect. Swinging like a maniac, he unleashes a savage flurry of strikes, but completely whiffs every single one of them. Our guy realizes he's slipping back into his old muscle memory fighting, like this is just another basic sparring session. Outraged, the attacker screams, demanding to know why he can't land even a single hit. Reaching out, he decides to wrap up this pathetic brawl right here and now. In one lightning-fast motion, he effortlessly strips the weapon right out of his hands. Stomping hard on the fallen blade, he delivers a brutal strike that sends his rival crashing straight into the dirt. Sprawled out in the dust, the rival screeches in absolute fury, cursing him out like crazy. Towering over the loser, he gears up to deliver the final crushing blow. He coolly asks why he would ever throw away a perfect advantage against a totally defenseless target. Glancing over his shoulder, he watches the crowd desperately holding back the raging sore loser. After taking a second to think, he figures that brutal beatdown should keep the guy off his back for a good while. Flashing back to his past life, he vividly remembers how his old man brutally forced his aura to awaken, swearing he won't repeat that exact same mistake. He makes a firm choice. He's going to conquer magic first. Pressing forward, he hikes completely solo down a misty forest trail. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he scopes out the area to make absolute sure he's entirely alone. Halting near a massive boulder, he figures he's safely hidden from any prying eyes. Suddenly, a memory triggers, a female mage quizzing him on exactly how spells are cast. He breaks it down, explaining that aura users refine their inner power just to buff up their physical stats or sharpen their blades. Leaning in close, the mage listens to his theory with intense curiosity. Relaxing by a blooming garden, she gears up to show him a flawless visual example. She casually snatches up a dusty watering can resting in the dirt right beside her. She smoothly explains that casting spells is exactly like sprinkling water over thirsty plants. Totally lost, he asks her what the heck she's even talking about. She breaks it down. Simply raw. Mana flows naturally through internal circuits, channeling straight into a magic circle the moment a spell is triggered. Instantly, the vibrant flowers surrounding her burst into full bloom. Snapping back to reality, he settles cross-legged on a boulder, sinking into deep meditation. Thinking back to her words, he remembers that invisible Mana. Perched on the jagged stone, he gazes up at the vast sky, fiercely trying to sync his mind with the wild nature around him. Shutting his eyes tight, he gambles that his razor-sharp instincts will let him pull the ambient magic right into his core. After all, living as a hardcore swordsman meant grinding all 5 of his senses to their absolute limits. Keeping his eyes shut, he locks in ready to trace the invisible magical currents. Fully tapped into the rhythm of the wild, he can vividly sense the fluttering birds, the rushing stream, and even the darting fish. Cracking one eye open, a spark hits him. He finally caught on to something. Suddenly, raw blue mana materializes, swirling through the dense woods like a glowing ocean. His eyes bulge out in pure shock. He can actually see the hidden arcane energy hyped out of his mind. He whispers that he finally nailed it. He hypes himself up to suck all that juice in, only to realize he doesn't have a single clue how to actually do it. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoes. He whips his head around, instantly diving for cover, just as something violently smashes into the boulder inches away. Reading the chaotic mana waves, he instantly gets a bad gut feeling that something is seriously twisted about this zone. Springing to his feet, he decides to track down the creepy pulsing energy slithering deep through the trees. Creeping closer and closer to the epicenter of the power, a chilling realization hits him. There isn't a single living, breathing creature left in the area. Out of nowhere, he brutally hurls himself into the dirt, just in time to dodge a lethal crushing strike. As the thick dust clears, the sheer destructive force of the ambush leaves him sweating. Glancing up, he's staring dead into the glowing eyes of a massive hulking stone golem. He desperately questions what the hell a monster like that is doing out in the middle of nowhere. Just then he catches sight of a shadowy figure plummeting straight from the sky. Right before his eyes, a mysterious woman lands, gracefully perching right on top of the giant golem's head. Glaring him down with a dismissive wave, she aggressively demands to know. Flashing a deadly threatening glare, she interrogates him, asking if he's a thief, trying to steal her classified research. She shoots him a lethal glare, warning him to choose his next words very carefully before running his mouth. Looming over him, the mysterious woman sizes him up, her eyes narrowed in heavy suspicion. Flashes of wild rumors hit him, tales of a legend, a powerhouse who could command a massive golem, making her a literal one-woman army. They called her the Creation Mage, the fiercely terrifying Isabel. Now shackled in heavy chains, running into her like this was absolutely not on his bingo card. Lounging on her throne, she demands to know his exact faction right now, aiming her staff right at him as deadly magic sparks to life. A massive glowing magic circle erupts across the floor, locking him completely dead in his tracks. Pure panic kicking in, he screams at her to hold on frantically, trying to stop the deadly strike. He blurts out that he let himself get captured because he is totally not the bad guy here. Pausing, she actually mulls over his frantic claim. But instead of buying it, she stands tall, charges up a lethal spell, and bids a cold farewell to the nameless nobody. Screaming his lungs out, he drops a massive bombshell. He isn't even a real mage. Totally caught off guard, she halts the blinding light and shoots the chained kid a wicked knowing smirk. She scoffs, calling it an incredibly pathetic lie just to save his own skin. Slapping a hand directly onto his head, she channels some unknown eerie magic. Her eye flashes fiercely, completely stunned by what she actually finds. The truth hits her, there is literally zero mana flowing through his core circuits. Cut to a quiet room, she casually sips her steaming tea, admitting she finally gets his whole messy situation. She flat out tells him not to expect an apology. Then she vents about being a walking target for literally everyone breathing down her neck. Eyes wide, he asks if she really is a professor at the legendary Magic Academy. His mind races. This is his golden ticket to getting mentored by a pro. Taking another slow sip of her drink, she just glares back at him, her face dripping with pure, unadulterated disgust. Leaping to his feet, he shoots his absolute biggest shot. Heart pounding with hope, he begs her to teach him how to actually manifest mana. Ice cold, she shuts him right down, straight up. Declaring she doesn't, she snaps at him to chug his drink and get out. But flashing back to his own brutal death, there is no way he is accepting that tragic fate again. Standing his ground, he totally refuses to back down. Completely brushing off her harsh command, he casually asks for a refill on his tea. His brain goes into overdrive, desperately trying to figure out a hack to make her change her mind. Firing up his unique vision, he intensely analyzes the raw mana floating around them. That is when he spots a massive glitch in the energy pulsing inside her golem. Pointing dead at the towering giant, he warns her the beast is glitching out. Suddenly, the massive golem violently trembles, completely dropping the teapot. The clunky monster instantly whacks her right on the head, splashing scorching hot tea everywhere. Freaking out, he jumps up and screams her name. Dashing over to help, he quickly points out that the mana circuits jammed deep inside the golem's right shoulder are totally clogged up. Right on cue, the glowing energy sparking from the golem's shoulder completely flickers out, proving his crazy. Beyond impressed, she stares in shock, wondering how the hell he predicted her flawless golem. Snatching his arm in a vice-like grip, she fiercely demands to know his secret. Leaning in close, she presses him on exactly how he spotted the microscopic fracture in her golem's shoulder. He casually shrugs, saying the golem's internal mana flow looked completely messed up. Her mind races, flashing back to the golden rule: raw mana is strictly invisible to the naked eye. Locking eyes with her, he smoothly drops the bombshell that he can actually see the hidden flow of mana in plain sight. The pieces finally click. Now she gets exactly how he shattered her defensive barrier, like it was nothing. She wonders if his intense background as a swordsman unlocked this crazy power. Flashing back to her absolute worst enemy, a chilling— wait, no. She suddenly realizes this was the one godly talent her greatest rival was insanely jealous of. Calling out his name, she turns to face him, a completely different, almost hungry vibe glowing in her eyes. Flashing a dangerous grin, she finally caves and agrees to train him in the deadly art of mana. Totally baffled, he points out she literally just said she wouldn't give him the time of day. Extending her hand, she smoothly admits he just officially captured her attention. Beyond hyped, he flashes a massive smile and instantly takes the deal. Gripping hands, they officially lock in the ultimate training contract that is going to change his life. Diving straight into the masterclass, she breaks down how the human body naturally sucks in mana like a sponge. He eagerly asks for the cheat code to actually force that raw energy through his dormant circuits. In response, she demonstrates that mana only surges forward when a solid magic formula is triggered. Completely baffled by the sketch, he asks what the heck this bizarre formula is supposed to mean. Unrolling a weathered scroll, she reveals it as a starter spell handed out to Academy freshmen. Totally hyped, he begs to know what kind of magic it packs, but she just smirks and calls it a surprise. She tells him to feel the energy flowing through his veins and dump it straight into the magic circle. Flashing a massive grin, he promises to give it his absolute all. Normally nailing this technique takes at least a solid month of grinding, but in her mind, if his raw talent is actually legit, things might play out way differently. He could probably crush the whole thing in just half a month of hardcore training. Keeping her advice in check, he braces himself to tap into his inner power. He realizes it is just like refining his aura, demanding pure inward focus. Shutting his eyes tight, he zones in to feel the deep pulsing energy buried inside him. He fights to awaken his dormant mana. A soft smirk creeps onto his face. He finally strikes gold. The second he slaps his hand onto the scroll, a glowing purple magic circle flares to life. Snapping his eyes open, it hits him. She was totally right all along. Staring down at the parchment, he watches his own mana physically manifesting. Mastering this energy feels exactly like learning to walk on a brand new set of legs. Nobody pops out of the womb ready to sprint. You have to stumble, wipe out, and drag yourself back up to finally find your footing. Absolutely shook, she just stands there processing the insane flex she just witnessed. Even the most cracked mages in the world need time to figure out mana control. Glancing up, he watches the sparkling energy particles he just forged slowly drifting toward him. Her jaw is practically on the floor. She cannot wrap her head around the fact that he literally mastered the skill on his very first attempt. Flashing back to their chat, she remembers his wild breakdown of the golem's core. Now she is wondering, is he this overpowered just because he can visually track mana? Honestly, whatever the reason is, she is dead certain about one thing. This kid has a godly once-in-a-lifetime talent for magic. Checking out his glowing creation, it finally clicks in his brain. This is legit authentic magic. Beaming from ear to ear, she hypes him up, calling his execution flawless. Slapping him on the back, she is still tripping over the fact that he one-shot the whole trial. But then he totally kills the vibe, muttering that it is not good enough. Leaving her dumbfounded, he stares critically at the spell and complains that it just looks super ugly, getting hit with a wave of nostalgia. He remembers the breathtaking spells that dazzled him as a little kid. That goofy grin on his face back then was pure unfiltered obsession with the mystic arts. He argues that true magic should be this mesmerizing, majestic force. But this flimsy trick, it just hits completely different, and not in a good way. Pointing straight at the scroll, he insists the formula is heavily flawed. In a weird way, he compares it to the busted golem. Claiming the mana flow of this specific spell feels totally janky. Spinning around to face her, he asks for her take, catching the young woman completely off guard. A sudden spark ignites in his eyes. He finally figures out his ultimate endgame, clenching his fist tight. He swears he refuses to become just another basic run-of-the-mill mage. Shouting at the top of his lungs, he declares, his ultimate goal is to cast flawless, jaw-dropping magic. She just stares back and bluntly tells him that if the formula felt clunky, he should have just rewritten the whole thing. Completely stunned by her casual logic, he practically lunges at her, buzzing with a whole new level of hype. He immediately demands to know exactly how he can sketch his own custom spell formulas. Meanwhile, cutting to a different scene, his dad is stalking alone down a massive shadowy castle corridor. He looks deep in thought, flashing back to a crazy memory. Wiped out on the dirt, his battered rivals are practically crying, wondering how on earth he got so ridiculously overpowered. Stepping up to the bruised kids, his dad demands a play-by-play of the brawl. Scrambling to cover it up, they nervously claim it was no big deal, just a little sparring match. Hitting them with a death glare, he orders them to spill the exact details. Shaking in their boots, they prepare to confess everything to the master. Suddenly, a guy steps up and breaks down the entire messy situation. Absorbing the wild story, the dad goes dead silent, just drilling holes into the guy with his eyes. Finally, he mutters that it is hard to believe Oscar actually soloed all of them. Brushing it off, he barks an order for them to patch up their injuries immediately. So, this drama does not ruin their training session tomorrow. Bowing deeply, the subordinate accepts the command, confirming the message is crystal clear. Staring out at the distant horizon, the father realizes the perfect moment has finally arrived. Flashing a dark grin, he declares it is finally time to bestow the ultimate sword energy. Meanwhile, back in a massive library jammed with ancient tomes and wild research gear, our boy admits he had literally zero clue that magic formulas went this deep. Acting totally chill, she offers to loan him a couple of books so he can dive into the lore. Flashing a sweet smile, she brags that her entire arsenal of knowledge is packed in those pages. But when she turns to hand them over, she realizes the kid has straight up vanished into thin air. A second later, he pops out from the aisles holding a massive tower of books, casually stating he is taking the entire stash. And he cheekily reminds her she was the one who offered. Calling his name to get his attention, she shifts her tone to drop a major warning. She tells him she hates to kill his vibe, but she has to warn him about a massive risk now that he has officially locked that wild mana inside his body. He's officially crossed the line into becoming a full-fledged mage, but she immediately drops a heavy warning. Handling a blade now comes with massive risks. As her words sink in, a sudden jarring flashback of his father flashes across the screen. The warning is brutally clear. One wrong move, and it's game over for him. Cutting back to Eisen Village, he stands on the outskirts, quietly taking in the view. Slumped slightly in his saddle, his face is etched with pure exhaustion and a dead serious gaze. Inside a dimly lit bedroom, his bedridden old man croaks out that it's been a minute. Freezing right at the bedside, he finally hears his dad acknowledge he's actually there. He drops to his knees as the frail man reaches out a trembling hand. A bittersweet memory hits his dad, patting him down, praising his raw, undeniable talent. But then his dad insists that forcing him to quit magic was the right call. That specific memory feels like a literal punch to the gut. The old man shoved him down the path of the sword against his will. But gripping that enrollment letter right now, he finally has the ultimate do-over. Standing right at the massive front gates, he braces himself to finally crash the Magic Academy. With his dad's voice echoing in his head, he swears to lock in his magic enrollment this time. Meanwhile, in another location, some shady guy stands dead, still staring into a roaring fireplace. Spotting the kid walking in, the man questions if they have business to settle, flashing an unbreakable glare. The boy straight up announces he needs a signature for his academy application. Locked in an intense face-off, the room drops into suffocating silence. The man tries to brush it off for later, but the kid absolutely refuses to back down. Glaring daggers, the man is visibly pissed off by this rebellious attitude, but the boy fires back saying time is up, because he desperately needs his own father to sign off on this. Digging for a reason, the dad demands to know why he's throwing everything away for magic. He drags up that massive argument they had back when the kid first wanted to cast spells. Completely ghosting the question, he just grips the pen fully locked in to get this done. Jamming a finger in his face, his dad snaps that this whole idea is pure insanity. The boy instantly claps back, questioning if it was really just some crazy delusion. Dropping his gaze, he actually nods in agreement. He admits that to him, it honestly felt like madness. But the second the old man lays a hand on him, a massive explosive wave of mana blasts through the room. Absolutely shook by this insane power drop, the dad screams out. He demands to know if this is some kind of sick joke. Then it clicks, he asks if his son has actually managed to completely master his mana out of nowhere. Flashing a cocky smirk, the kid admits he honestly didn't think talking would ever convince his old man. Furious, the dad growls, asking what exactly he's trying to prove here. The boy flexes, saying that crushing a swordsman without even drawing a blade proves just how insane his talent really is. He fires back that he knows exactly what kind of monster potential he's packing. Boiling over, his father screams that he doesn't know Jack. He insists the kid is guaranteed to hit the top tier if he just sticks to the sword. The boy coolly replies that his dad's assessment is spot on. But then he drops the hammer. He totally disagrees. He preaches that hitting the top doesn't automatically mean you get a happy ending. Squaring up the two are seconds away from a massive ideological clash. Dragging a hand down his face, the dad sighs, muttering that it actually makes sense. The boy just stares him down, waiting for the fallout from his words. His eyes suddenly going pitch black, the old man growls that he can still fix this mess. He straight up asks if the kid has a death wish. Trying to terrify him, he threatens that if his son keeps pushing down this garbage path, he'll physically beat some sense into him. Ripping his blade from its sheath, he promises a harsh reality check. He warns that even if the kid hates his guts right now, he'll be begging to thank him down the line. Eyes burning with resolve, the boy shoots back. That day is never happening, old man. And honestly, that day literally never came in his past life either. Aiming the lethal tip right at him, his dad orders. He smirks, claiming he'll give him at least a few seconds to gear up for the slaughter. Shutting his eyes tight, the boy zeroes in on the bloodbath ahead. Snapping them open, he locks onto his opponent with a gaze of pure, unfiltered savage resolve. Gripping the enrollment paper, he loudly reminds him that he's a mage now, not some basic swordsman. That Magic Academy letter is the ultimate proof of his new destiny. Without missing a beat, he casually tosses the letter straight into the roaring fire. The paper instantly incinerates into ash. Totally thrown off, and raging, his dad can't process this crazy move. Hitting him with a wildly defiant glare, the boy taunts. Let's see if you can take this away from me. Stomping forward, the dad dares the kid to shoot his shot and find out what happens. He barks at him not to get cocky, just because he survived one burst of his aura. But in a literal blink, the old man blitzes him, freezing his razor-sharp blade mere inches from the boy's throat. The kid realizes he can perfectly read every single strike coming his way. Ever since childhood, he'd been burning his father's every single movement right into his brain. The fierce glint in his eyes proved he'd absorbed every last drop of his dad's mastery, unleashing an absolute hurricane of strikes. The old man triggers a devastating area of effect attack, but the kid effortlessly weaves through every single deadly blow like an absolute ghost. He then drops the truth bomb that the guy he looked up to more than anyone else was his own dad. Gliding backward, his father smirks, admitting the kid actually backed up his big talk. He even gives him props for dodging those lethal hits flawlessly without tapping into a single drop of aura. He straight up acknowledges his son's god-tier swordsmanship. Surging with raw energy, he challenges the boy to take his power head-on. The kid flashes back to his dad, swearing he'd force him to tap out. Flashing a cocky grin, he asks if the old man is seriously begging him to yield. Ticked off, his dad calls him a cocky punk, totally caught off guard by his insane audacity. He fires back that just like his raw talent. There are some hard lines he absolutely refuses to cross. Gripping a magic quill, the boy makes it crystal clear he won't back down. His dad raises an eyebrow, asking if he actually plans to wield that flimsy thing like a legit blade. The kid casually reveals it's just a beginner's magic wand. Flashing back to Isabel, he declares that true magic requires serious brain power. And unfortunately for his dad, the old man doesn't know the first thing about spellcasting. Clutching the quill, the boy drops into a combat stance. Since his dad is totally flying blind, there is zero chance he can predict the kid's next explosive counterattack. Lunging forward with a brutal slash, the father goes all in, aiming to crush the boy. But thanks to his overpowered dynamic vision, the kid reads every single one of his dad's lethal strikes like an open book. He instantly spawns a swarm of shadow clones to tank the old man's devastating shockwave. Slipping through the absolute chaos, he completely dodges the hit, flashing a confident smirk. Blinking right behind his dad, he catches him totally off guard and charges up a vicious counter. He straight up paralyzes his father's massive blade, flexing his insane tactical dominance. Tightly gripping the quill, he gears up to unleash the one spell he's been obsessed with his entire life. Channeling his mana, he literally draws a complex magic circle mid-air, using everything he's learned, drifting back to his childhood days. He visualizes the very first spell that ever blew his mind, the exact magic he spent years desperately craving to cast. Sparking up a basic ignition spell, he finally turns his lifelong dream into reality. A hazy memory flashes by, showing his frail mother rocking gently in her chair, completely mind-blown by the sudden flash. His dad freezes absolutely speechless as he stares at the crackling embers. The spark spell blasts right into his father, detonating in a blinding burst of pure light. The old man is left utterly baffled, wondering what kind of crazy sorcery just hit him. Closing the gap in a heartbeat, the boy goes all out for the final strike. Furious, the father yells out, asking if that flashy spell was just a cheap parlor trick. But as the kid literally launches his dad into the sky, he proves that spark was way more than just a decoy. Sticking the landing perfectly, the boy halts mere inches from his father's dropped greatsword. The polished steel mirrors his fierce expression, with the magic quill aimed dead straight at the old man's chest. The kid smirks, revealing he totally baited his dad, knowing he'd react solely to his physical killing intent. The father breathes heavily, asking if disarming him was the actual endgame behind that magic stunt. The kid shrugs casually, dropping that masking his true motives was a dirty trick he learned straight from him. Face-palming hard, the dad looks utterly done with his son's ridiculous antics. He sighs, admitting that, while the kid's sword talent is absolute god-tier, wandering into the magic world is a massive gamble. Staring each other down, a heavy silence fills the battlefield. Flashing a genuine smile, the boy says he was just proving he has what it takes to forge his own destiny. He then fires back, asking if the old man only picked up a blade because someone promised him he'd be the absolute best at it, getting hit with heavy nostalgia. His dad's mind drifts back to a core memory. A younger version of himself is stressing over whether he should force his kid into the family sword arts. Chilling next to his gorgeous wife, he brags that their little guy is a total prodigy with a blade. She playfully roasts him, reminding the great swordsman that he only started swinging a sword because he thought it looked cool. Smiling warmly, she points out they don't have to force anything, because the kid will carve out his own path when the time comes. Snapping back to reality with a soft smirk, the father sighs, admitting he totally envisioned his son dominating as the next sword saint. Hyped beyond belief by this reaction, the boy stares at him with eyes full of hope, but the old man just turns his back and walks off, leaving him insanely confused, slapping his signature onto the enrollment papers. His dad officially gives his blessing, fully backing the wild path his son decided to walk. Totally stunned, the boy just gapes at him, completely shook by his dad's sudden 180 flip. Chuckling, the dad casually jokes that he obviously can't sign official documents with a magical beginner's wand. Cutting, the legendary Magic Academy is buzzing with crazy hype, gearing up to welcome the absolute sickest batch of freshmen. Skimming through a heavy stack of files, an examiner is mind blown, claiming this year's rookies are built completely different. A female professor chimes in, hyped that the royal princess and elite highborns are enrolling. Smirking, another young instructor points out that these VIPs have already maxed out their overpowered bloodline spells. Hidden in the shadows, another mysterious guy grips a top-secret dossier. Keeping his identity completely under wraps, an instructor checks in to see if the fresh batch of rookies is causing any trouble. The mystery dude smirks, confirming they are absolutely living up to that god-tier bloodline. Cut to our boy grinding his magic studies with a literal feather pen. Right outside his dorm, his old man is patiently waiting for him. Flashing a soft smile, he turns to his dad with eyes full of pride. After 6 brutal months of non-stop training, Academy Day is officially here. Striding forward with a massive grin, he casually drops that time just flew by in a blink. His dad brings him back to reality, reminding him that everyone else has been grinding their magical skills too. He tells him to stay rock solid since this is the very path he chose to walk, radiating pure confidence. Our guy promises. Chuckling, he jokes that honestly nobody out there is scarier than his own old man. His dad cracks a proud smile, knowing deep down his kid is totally ready to conquer whatever comes next. Waving goodbye, his dad says he is heading out, walking away while tightly clutching the letter. The hype is real. He is finally heading to the academy. Brushing past swarms of students, he finally steps up to the place he has been dreaming about for years. This is it, the The Magic Academy he is obsessed over forever. Pushing those massive doors open, he braces himself to dive headfirst into a crazy new magical world. Beyond the gates, a jaw-dropping massive castle towers right over him. A bunch of upper-level mages are already firing off flashy spells just to hype up the new arrivals. Magical gnomes are out here shredding on their instruments, throwing down the ultimate welcome festival. Other kids are zooming by at top speed on flying brooms. Smiling, he realizes this vibe is wildly different from the stuffy Sword Academy. The gnomes keep jamming out, keeping the energy sky high for all the freshmen pouring in. Crouching down, he tilts his head, wondering what exactly makes a gnome different from a golem anyway. Suddenly remembering his registration, he springs to his feet so he does not— But boom! Isabel is suddenly standing right in his face. Jogging up to her, he teases that she better not have been slacking off these past few months. Flashing a smirk, she challenges him to drop her jaw with his raw talent all over again. Pointing down the empty street, he asks where everyone went. She casually drops that the placement exam for the elite first class is going down right over there. Basically, the rookies get split into two different squads, based on whether they actually have mana or are totally, completely dry. But sitting way above those two is a special top-tier class reserved only for the absolute prodigies. This exam is literally designed to weed out the weak from the gifted. She straight up warns him to sit this one out, but he immediately questions why. She breaks it down. The kids who clear this test are absolute monsters. They are the spoiled elites who have been breathing magic since they were in diapers. Grinning like a maniac, he realizes that just means he will get to steal some super advanced magic for himself. Facepalming hard, she sighs knowing it is totally pointless trying to talk sense into this guy. Giving in, she tells him to just come watch the bloodbath himself. Down in a massive arena, two students are already throwing down in a nasty showcase duel. One guy throws up a massive water shield to block an incoming strike. A giant wave crashes forward, totally flexing the dude's insane magical output. Smirking, the kid celebrates landing such a devastating hit. Watching the clash, our boy figures out the test is basically just blasting a target with pure magic. But suddenly, the hairs on his neck stand up. Someone is glaring at him. Whipping around, he spots a white-haired dude barking at him. The guy practically spits the word commoner, telling him he has zero right to even breathe the same air. Eyes blazing with sheer arrogance, the noble barks at him to get lost right this second. Our guy claps back, saying he heard this academy takes literally any new student. Scoffing, the rich kid sneers, mocking him for having such a big mouth. Suddenly, it totally clicks what Isabel meant when she called these upper-class kids absolute monsters. He gets it now. Unless you have got blue blood, you are dead meat here. Shoving past our guy, the noble snaps that he is up next and tells him to watch and weep. A female instructor grips her staff, signaling the start of the next round. Glaring from across the arena, the snobby noble gets ready to unleash his absolute max power. He declares that the elite first class is strictly for those who have literally sacrificed everything for magic. Chanting a brutal ice spell, he commands the absolute freezing of all existence. Massive glaciers violently erupt from the ground, putting his god-tier magical raw power on full display. The crowd goes absolutely wild over this insane icy flex. Even our boy is standing there totally stunned by what just went down. Mind blown, the audience murmurs that you would expect nothing less from the legendary Galosis family. Meanwhile, others are whispering, wondering if he just burned through his entire mana pool for that. Watching the ice settle, our guy mutters that maybe he is completely out of his league here. But deep down, he fully admits that the firepower of these arrogant nobles is undeniably insane. He clearly poured his blood, sweat, and tears into that spell. But our boy just smirks and calls it a massive waste of energy, completely triggered. The noble snaps, demanding to know what the hell he just said about his flawless magic, totally brushing off the rich kid's tantrum. He just turns his back and gets ready to bounce. Deep down, he actually respects the sheer grind and hours the guy put in. All right then. Flashing a confident grin, he mentions that the noble's little magic show actually gave him a major confidence boost. The crowd absolutely loses it, pointing and laughing because he's literally holding a pathetic little feather instead of a real wand. The peanut gallery that there is zero chance he hits a single target with that trash. Meanwhile, the arrogant noble is still fuming, convinced his ice magic was an absolute masterpiece with zero flaws. Standing right in front of the freezing pillars, our underdog steps up to the plate. The rich kid brags that his elite family basically invented ice magic, so his technique is undeniably perfect. Yet he secretly catches himself wondering why he's even sweating over some random dirt-poor commoner. The strict instructor gets ready to kick off the next candidate's trial. She thinks to herself that this year's batch of rookies is totally stacked, completely living up to the crazy hype and rumors. She is seriously blown away by Zazan, who is practically guaranteed to become the top student representative. But even with that god-tier display, her gut is screaming that something insane is about to go down. She stares at our boy, wondering what the heck he's been plotting this whole time. From the back of the crowd, some random hater yells out, brutally telling him to just pack up and quit if he can't even land a hit. But the instructor notices something chilling. He's not nervous at all. He's just waiting for the perfect opening. Activating his special magic eyes, he completely deconstructs the frosty magic in front of him. Like a glowing blueprint, he instantly spots every single structural weakness hidden inside those massive ice pillars. Gripping that flimsy little feather, he finally gets ready to flex his real magic. The instructor's jaw practically drops when she realizes his crazy plan. Whispering an ancient incantation, he charges up a scorching fire spell. Without hesitating, he unleashes, sniping every single target with terrifying pinpoint accuracy. Crash. The targets instantly collapse into smoking piles of rubble, proving it was an absolute flawless sweep. The instructor is completely paralyzed, her brain totally short-circuiting over what she just witnessed. The crowd starts murmuring, realizing he literally just used a starter-level spell, but still managed to absolutely obliterate every single mark. The snobs still scoff, claiming that if he's stepping into this elite academy, he should really be flexing way flashier magic. Rocking a cocky little smirk, he casually turns his back, completely unbothered by the haters. Meanwhile, the rich kid is having an existential crisis, wondering what kind of insane overpowered magic this dude would actually bust out during the real deal, still lying down in defeat. He grumbles that the whole spectacle was just a massive waste of his time. Our underdog casually turns to the stunned instructor and asks if he just failed the test. Snapping back to reality, she violently screams, "You just sniped all 5 targets and passed with flying colors." Tilting his head, our boy is genuinely baffled as to why she's acting like she just saw a ghost. He flat out asks why she's freaking out over such a basic move. Still completely rattled, she demands to know why he didn't just shoot them down one by one if he was truly that cracked. Getting a bit defensive, she fiercely warns him not to dare claim it was just some lucky fluke. Rubbing his chin thoughtfully, he mentally admits that the Noble's ice show was genuinely pretty sick. His mind flashes back to that freezing blizzard, acknowledging that it was visually a top-tier flex. But then he casually drops the bomb, explaining that dumping that much mana into one single attack is honestly just a pathetic waste of juice. Totally lost, she desperately tries to wrap her head around what he means by wasting mana. Staring her dead in the eyes, he coldly states that he treated this little practical exam exactly like a deadly real-world battlefield. As those heavy words sink in, the instructor is completely stunned into absolute silence, just staring intensely at this absolute menace. Bowing her head slightly, she actually apologizes for doubting him, finally realizing the sheer depth of his genius. Later strolling through the bustling city streets, he casually replays that wild exam moment in his head. Back at the arena, the instructor is still reeling over his insane battlefield vision, raw guts, and absolute flawless mana control. She gets actual goosebumps, realizing that this random kid grasps the true terrifying essence of magic way better than anyone else. He didn't just pass, he proved he is a god-tier mage, with a disgustingly high potential that absolutely eclipses every single elite snob in that room. Meanwhile, as our boy wanders down a quiet, he mentally reviews his crazy first day at this prestigious magic academy. He still can't wrap his head around bumping into such an insanely overpowered mage right out of the gate. But as he continues his lonely walk, his survival instincts instantly kick in. Someone is heavily stalking him from the shadows. Dead in his tracks, he whips around, ready to confront whatever creeper is tailing him. His eyes turn ice cold as he demands the hidden stalker to step the hell out of the darkness. Suddenly, a smooth, mysterious voice echoes out, clapping back with praise for his razor-sharp instincts, and catching on to their presence so ridiculously fast. Gripping a heavy wooden staff, the shadowy figure steps into the light, casually welcoming our underdog. The old man finally drops his hood, introducing himself as Balsamus, the actual headmaster of the entire freaking academy. Panicking slightly, the boy instantly bows down frantically, apologizing for his aggressive attitude. But the chill director just laughs it off and tells him to relax. Still totally shook by the sudden VIP encounter, our guy is basically left stuttering and completely speechless. But right then, his superhuman eyes lock onto a bizarre detail, and his pupils shrink in pure shock. He violently recognizes the glowing necklace wrapped around the headmaster's neck. It's the exact same artifact worn by that terrifying, mysterious mage. Reaching his hand out, the old man softly asks the boy if everything is okay. Shaking off his dread for a split second, our boy reaches back to respectfully shake the headmaster's hand. But the exact microsecond their skin makes contact, a horrifying, agonizing vision of the director screaming in pure torment violently flashes into his brain. Completely traumatized by the nightmare, he forcefully yanks his hand back, stumbling away in total horror. An absolute monstrous shockwave of wind blasts him backward, showing off just how disgustingly overpowered the headmaster really is. The raw kinetic force literally launches our underdog straight up into the air, violently crashing him onto a nearby rooftop. Landing smoothly on his feet, the headmaster actually praises the kid for dodging that wild strike. Hovering in midair, the old man studies him seriously, wondering if this kid's battle instincts are really that insanely sharp. Gripping his magical quill, our boy stares him down. "Did you seriously come here just to take me out?" The headmaster scoffs. "You honestly think you can beat me with that?" With a quick flick of his staff, he unleashes a massive cyclone. A literal prison of tearing winds traps the boy, completely boxing him in. Realizing this wind barrier is practically a death trap, With zero way out, he braces himself and charges up a fire spell. Chanting the incantation, he blasts a blazing fireball straight at the headmaster. The scorching flames rocket forward seconds away from a direct hit. Still floating effortlessly, the headmaster just watches the inferno barrel toward him, but with a casual swipe of his staff, he effortlessly swats the flames away like it's nothing. Our boy readies himself to counter, but the old man just stares right back. It finally clicks. The headmaster purposely aimed his attack so the kid could actually block it. Smirking slightly, the headmaster looks pretty hyped about how this little test turned out. Totally lost, our guy glances around, and having zero clue what is going on. Dropping to one knee, he braces himself for whatever crazy move the old man pulls next. The headmaster chuckles. Don't tell me you're already out of mana. He admits the whole thing was just a pop quiz. Touching down with a grin, he listens as the boy demands to know what the heck the point of that was. He wanted the kid to feel the harsh reality of having a massive target on his back just for being talented, getting dead serious. He confesses he totally underestimated the boy's raw potential. Our guy then asks the million-dollar question, wondering if he is going to be hunted just for flexing his skills at the academy. The headmaster nods. Yeah, the magic elitists absolutely despise commoners who pack this much heat. Flashbacks of that brutal ambush hit him hard. It's when those sketchy masked mages cornered him. They literally said his existence was a sin, just because he was naturally gifted. Stomping toward the old man, he demands names. Voice cracking with rage, he yells, wanting to know exactly which punks tried to end his life. The headmaster just stares back in dead silence, refusing to drop a single name. He bluntly states that knowing who they are would just speedrun his own funeral. He tells the kid to lock in, study hard, and learn how to survive academy life first. Eyes burning with pure resolve, our boy realizes exactly how much firepower he needs to stay breathing. It hits him. If the headmaster was actually out for blood, he would already be a goner. Clenching his eyes shut, he is completely sick to his stomach over his own weakness. Spinning back to face the old man, he fires off one last question. He points out the glowing pendant hanging around the headmaster's neck and asks what it is. The headmaster blinks, totally caught off guard. He raises an eyebrow. Is there an issue with the crest of a magic saint? The kid's jaw drops. He instantly realizes that is the ultimate god tier rank. It is literally the magic world's version of his old title, the Sword Saint. Saying he has got a little parting gift, the headmaster tosses him a heavy coin. Catching it out of the air, our boy inspects the weird metallic badge. The old man warns him to keep it safe. It is going to come in clutch very soon. Watching the legendary mage walk away, he is utterly mind-blown by the sheer gap in their power levels. The headmaster's aura is so flawlessly calm, it is terrifying. Gripping the token tight, he mutters that fangirling over the old man will not get him anywhere. He used to think just picking up some basic magic would make this second life a breeze. But flashing back to his own brutal murder, he knows he needs insane levels of power. Crushing his fists together, he vows to grind until he is untouchable. He swears out loud that he is going to completely surpass the absolute beast he used to be as the Sword Saint. Cut to the classroom where two students are whispering about how our boy speedrun the trials. They are totally spooked that he got a perfect score on every single target. An arrogant noble scoffs, claiming it is pure luck, and that the peasant will get expelled in no time. Suddenly, a new guy steps into the room, striding right past the whispering crowd. Taking center stage, he clears his throat to drop a massive bombshell on the class. Slouching in his chair, the stuck-up noble shoots the newcomer a look of absolute disgust. But, a second later, the noble's smug face completely shatters into pure shock. Strolling into the room, like he owns the place, our boy takes his seat right in the middle of the pack. The noble is literally losing his mind, trying to figure out how this low-born trash survived the exams. He is sweating bullets, wondering how the hell the commoner kid pulled this off. Meanwhile, chatting with another mage, our hero drops some facts, saying he needs to completely lock in and grind his stats just to stay alive in this crazy place. Sitting perfectly still with his eyes shut tight, he starts channeling his inner mana. By spamming this exact training cycle, it suddenly clicks. That constantly burning out his power actually expands his max mana capacity. Snapping his eyes open, he stares out at the horizon, absolutely dead set on reaching the top. Standing alone in his room, he stares out the massive window, his eyes locked dead on his own hand. He practically craves more real combat experience. Suddenly, while chilling on the floor, he violently flinches. Catching onto a weird vibe, he strides straight for the door, realizing this is the very first time he's ever felt this way. Tugging his gloves tight, he openly admits that for once in his life, he actually wants to get insanely strong. Touching down at the scene, he immediately squares up against three guys who just glare down at him like he's absolute trash. The white-haired dude starts roasting him hard. This guy is literally baffled, wondering what on earth went down with our main character. The whole crowd of students around them is completely shook by his random pop-up, totally locking eyes with his biggest rival right there. But his gaze cuts right through the crowd. He instantly locks onto this one girl rocking a pair of glasses. He's totally wondering who she even is. While she's sitting there buried in a bookmark slips out and hits the floor right next to her. He swoops in and snatches the bookmark off the ground before anyone can trample all over it. Sliding up to her, he asks if she dropped it. Stretching his hand out, he hands the little lost item right back. Flashing a super sweet smile, she completely lights up and warmly thanks him for the save. Catching her whole vibe, he points out that she must be totally obsessed with flowers. Totally thrown off, she just stares at him blankly. She literally has no idea what he's talking about. Dropping his name as Oscar, he casually asks if he can crash in the seat next to her. Her name turns out to be Lily. Right at that exact second, a voice booms through the room, making him instantly snap his head up. The rest of the class instantly zones in, glancing around wildly. They're all trying to pinpoint where the heck that sound came from. Leaking right out of a nearby desk, the voice literally sounds like it's trapped inside a textbook. Without warning, pages violently explode into the air, swirling all over the room. Mind blown, the entire squad of students, and even his rival, watch the paper tornado spin. Then out of nowhere, a woman materializes, announcing herself as Ruth. Turns out she's the one running this whole class. Recognizing her face instantly, he realizes she's the exact same proctor from the first exam. The professor drops a massive bombshell. Next week, they are diving straight into hardcore combat training. Just hearing the words field training sends him into absolute overdrive, slamming his fist down on the desk in pure hype. He's literally losing his mind that he gets to rack up actual battle experience this early in the game. To keep things fair, she announces they need to squad up in teams of 5. Totally lost, the kids had asked if their combat strength is based purely on magic power. Wagging her finger with a smirk, she clears it up. The metric is going to be their total raw body mana. Chilling next to the girl, he keeps his ears wide open. He is just soaking in every single instruction with a huge smirk. The professor gears up to kick off the ultimate mana check. She then casually drops that she's already finished scanning everyone's stats. Out of nowhere, the students notice glowing orbs of pure light popping up. These crazy spheres just spawn right above their heads. The girl next to him is totally caught off guard by the glowing orb hovering over her. With her back totally turned, the professor orders a massive blinding orb flares up right above his rival's head. It completely blows the mind of a classmate standing right next to him. Another super intense looking dude casually summons an equally massive overpowered sphere of his own. Slouching back in his chair, another guy just grins, totally hyped that he's packing some serious firepower too. Scanning the room, the professor admits this class is actually stacked with some insanely gifted mages. But then, a pathetic tiny little speck of mana pops up over his head, leaving him absolutely clueless. The rest of the class starts brutally roasting him, laughing that he figures this definitely isn't the time to stress over it. Right then, a hand lightly taps his shoulder, making him whip around instantly. It's the flower girl from earlier, completely out of the blue, asking him to join her squad. He asks if she's absolutely sure about this, and she fires right back. She claims that anyone who vibes with flowers has to be a solid dude, but she gives him a quick heads up that they have to run it by some guy named Levin first. Completely in the dark, he's just sitting there, wondering who the heck this Levin dude even is. Lounging in his seat, the redhead guy straight up asks if she actually wants to drag this random guy into their crew. Staring him down, Oscar confidently declares he'd totally be down to squad up. The two of them just lock eyes in a fierce stare down, while the redhead silently calculates the whole vibe. Slamming his hand flat onto the desk, he proudly declares that it's a noble's absolute duty to shield the weak. Then he finally gives the green light. He tells him he can tag along, but only as their designated bag boy. With the trash talk over, the whole class scrambles to lock in their 5-person rosters. One of the random students turns around, glaring daggers of pure disgust right at the two of them. Walking right by his side, the girl catches the nasty side eye. She tells him to just ignore the haters. She casually brushes it off, saying, matching her pace, he shrugs it off like it's no big deal, throwing her a massive thank you for actually letting him crash their party. Addressing her burning question, he casually drops that he has only been studying magic for about 6 months. Pausing their walk, the duo dives deeper into his insane training routine. Her jaw practically hits the floor. As she double-checks just 6 months, he turns back, totally clueless as to why she is freaking out. Meanwhile, down the hall, the professor starts walking away from her students, after laying down the rules. But right then, the white-haired kid shouts out, calling for Professor Ruth. Glancing over her shoulder, she asks what is bugging him. The kid instantly snaps, demanding to know why a basic commoner is sitting in the academy's elite top class. Not holding back, he whines that the new guy is completely zeroed out. Clenching his fist tight, he snarls that some rookie could never keep up with the real pros. Flashing a knowing smirk, the professor asks if he is talking about young Oscar, locking eyes with the furious student. She drops a massive truth bomb. She spills that Oscar literally just woke up his mana 6 months ago, leaving his rival totally speechless. Backing up Oscar's insane potential, she warns that the rookie might just leave him in the dust soon. Turning her back to walk off, she lays out the brutal reality. She wraps up by declaring that this field training is built to weed out the weak anyway. Smash cut to the classroom, now totally deserted. A glowing pyramid chart pops up, proving nobles are just born with god-tier power levels. Catching the drift, Oscar just nods, saying he totally gets it. He even admits it is crazy impressive for anyone his age to hit that kind of mana peak. Buzzing with hype, the girl fires back that he is actually the real legend here. Grabbing his arm, She squeals that hitting his level in a mere 6 months is straight up unheard of, flashing back to his master. He brushes it off, chalking it up to top-tier training, seizing the moment. He pivots, asking what exactly her deal is with Levin. Flashing a bright smile, she spills that Levin's family is pure high-ranking royalty. His bloodline carries so much weight that people basically worship him just to stay under his wing. She hypes him up further, claiming Levin is a total prodigy who is guaranteed to keep the squad safe if things go south. Standing next to her, Oscar looks kinda weirded out about needing a bodyguard. Cut to the dense, creepy woods, where the whole class is grouped up ready to kick off their ultimate survival test. Front and center, the professor steps up to break down the rules of the game. She drops the core objective. They literally have to survive one night in a forest crawling with deadly monsters. Hearing the catch, Oscar mentally groans another hardcore field test right after exams. Holding up a magical scroll, she reveals it packs a protective barrier and an SOS flare. One cocky kid scoffs, bragging that this is basically easy mode, since they can just pop the scroll. But the professor quickly shuts that down, warning that any squad who pops their flare will be instantly kicked out of the elite class. The second that rule drops, pure panic spreads through the crowd. Catching the heavy tension, Oscar finally clicks just how desperate these kids are to keep their top-tier status. Stepping up, the red-headed noble boasts that failure is not an option on his watch, flashing an arrogant smirk. He swears he will carry the entire squad through the trial. Everyone scrambles to link up, locking into their assigned teams. A massive heavy-duty camping bag hits the dirt right next to Oscar. Pointing straight at the luggage, the redhead barks at him to hurry up and play pack mule for the team. The girl beside him instantly stresses out, but Oscar waves it off, saying he has got it, watching him bend over to grab the straps. The redhead smugly snickers that he loves a guy who knows his place. Lugging the giant bag, Oscar shadows the squad as they cross the tree line into the deadly woods. Out of nowhere, their so-called fearless leader trips over his own feet, eating dirt and totally stunning the squad. He stays down, clutching his leg like he is actually hurt, while the others just freeze up clueless. Reaching out a hand, our guy gently asks if he can stand up, but the noble just glares dead at the offered hand, absolutely seething with rage. Slapping the help away, the redhead aggressively screams at him to shut his mouth and back off, storming ahead. Oscar casually turns to the girl, checking if she's doing all right. Watching him, the hothead fumes, wondering how this nobody stays so insanely chill. As they push deeper into the brush, Oscar realizes it is way too quiet. 0 monsters spotted so far. Suddenly his eyes lock onto a bizarre anomaly creeping through the trees. Spotting something deeply off about the woods, the whole vibe of the forest shifts, twisting into something far more sinister. Barking out a frantic warning, he orders the entire squad. Totally triggered by the command, the redhead violently stomps his foot, demanding to know who the hell Oscar thinks he is, glaring back with dead serious malice. He catches a familiar vibe. It feels exactly like his master's ward. Then it hits them. The squad is completely boxed in. A heavy boot steps dead center into a massive glowing magic circle. The enchanted shield shatters like glass. Gripping her wand tight, the girl's eyes go wide, totally shell-shocked by the chaos. "Yo, what the heck is going on?" the redhead blurts out, totally rattled. Through the fractured glass, a dead serious glare scopes out the mess. He locks eyes on the absolute nightmare unfolding just past the shattered ward. Fingers tighten around a dagger primed for a bloodbath. Whipping around to face the crew, he barks, "Wands up, people get ready." And right on cue for the ultimate showdown, the shield completely gives out. "Gear up, we're fighting," he yells. But as the squad looks up, their jaws drop at the sight above them. The sky is totally twisted, looking alien. Freaking out, she whispers, "Wait, is this even the same forest we were just in?" Suddenly, towering monstrous trees loom over them. This place is straight up unrecognizable. Carved deep into the bark, a massive number 5 gives away their location. "Hold up," she stammers. "Are we in the 5th graveyard?" "No way," a dude screams. "That's a hardcore training zone for the pros." His brain starts racing. Was that magic circle a total setup? A creepy vision of 5 hooded creeps flashes through his mind. Sweating bullets, our boy grabs the emergency flare. "We need to pop the teleport to scroll and call for backup," he urges, clutching the ancient parchment tight. The redhead side-eyes his panicked classmate. Then, without even blinking, he grabs the paper and violently rips it in half right in front of everyone. While shredding their only lifeline, the ginger locks eyes with a smug, arrogant smirk creeps across his face. "Relax," he scoffs. "It was probably just some busted leftover warp zone." Pivoting back, he puffs out his chest. "Honestly, this is a massive W for us. If we ace this survival test, the Academy is gonna buff my grades to the moon." The extras start hyping him up, gushing, "Man, he's totally built different. Classic Aldred air." Shivering, the girl tugs on Oscar's sleeve. "Please, just stick right by my side through all this," she begs. Trudging along with the squad, he's basically over all the drama. But suddenly he freezes. His eyes practically pop out of his skull. Hiding out in the pitch-black shadows, a massive 3-eyed wolf flashes its razor-sharp fangs, unleashing a low, bone-chilling snarl right at the students. Flashing a cocky grin, the redhead smirks. "About time you mutts crawled out to play." Gripping his gear, he braces for the absolute bloodbath about to drop. In his head, this is the ultimate EXP grind, a rare chance to level up his combat stats. The ginger shoves him back. Bro, what are you doing rushing in like a total noob? He snaps. Sit back. I'll show you how elite nobility actually wrecks things. Totally confused, our guy is like, wait, how does a noble even fight? Right then, a massive paw slams into the dirt, extending deadly sickle-shaped claws. Squaring up, the redhead locks onto a savage beast, blitzing straight for his throat. Spinning his wooden staff like a pro, he braces for the monstrous stampede. Flashing that signature smirk, he hoists his weapon to strike. Wham! He smashes the staff into the earth, triggering a massive shockwave that spawns a heavy-duty force field around the whole crew. A jagged wall of solid stone erupts from the dirt. It slams directly into the pack of wolves, knocking them way back. Now light 'em up, he screams at the squad. Instantly, one of the dudes summons a massive slicing hurricane blast, hurling it straight at the beasts. Backing him up, another guy snipes the targets with a brutal high-pressure water cannon right through the defensive wall. Boom, both elemental strikes completely obliterate one of the demon wolves. The squad falls into a flawless rhythm, tanking hits on defense while spamming hardcore attacks. Watching the crazy teamwork unfold, it finally clicks in his brain. So, this is how true mages throw down on the battlefield. Glancing at the swarming horde, the redhead realizes they are vastly outnumbered. Out of nowhere, crack! A brutal strike shatters their stone defense to dust. The blast catches one of the guys dead in the chest. Yeeted through the air like a ragdoll, he doesn't stand a chance against the heavy-hitting impact. In that split second, a monster shadow drops right behind the girl. She completely freezes, terrified. Cursing under his breath, the ginger snaps his focus back, instantly spotting the lethal. A hulking mutant beast vaults over the rubble, coils its muscles and prepares for a lethal pounce. The beast lunges jaws, aimed straight for the girl's throat. Clocking the danger, our hero instantly charges up a heavy fire spell to save her skin. Blasting the spell, he scores a direct hit on the beast, while violently yanking the girl out of the crash zone. Scorched by the blast, the monster violently faceplants into the dirt. With the beast totally KO'd, he fiercely pulls her behind his back, shielding her from the rest of the carnage. Shaking like a leaf, she gasps, "Oh my god, you literally just saved my life." Catching his breath, he just nods. It's chill. The fight's over. The pack is wiped out. Sunset hits, and the squad finally catches a breather. They're chilling around a crackling campfire deep in the woods. The redhead grins, hyping up how insanely lucky they are to watch a literal noble throw down right in front of them. That defensive magic combo was absolute tier 1. He fires back. Hearing the praise, our red-haired dude actually blushes, totally caught off guard. But inside, his mind is racing. He doesn't just want to keep up, he craves raw solo power that completely eclipses the rest of them. Gazing into the flames, he questions everything. Is sticking to his basic training grind really the move while they're out here surviving? Hey! The girl breaks his train of thought, sliding over with a soft smile and 2 steaming mugs. She totally owns up to it, admitting she was the one who needed saving back there. He gives her a grateful nod, then gets straight to the nerdy stuff, asking how the power scaling actually works with that defensive spell. Flashing back to that brutal wolf ambush, he keeps grilling her, desperate. Stepping in, the redhead breaks it down. Magic always hits the hardest when it's kept close to the caster's body. He hits him with a smirk, throwing massive shade. Commoners are all the same, man. You guys just don't get how mana works. The girl softens the blow, explaining that spells literally bleed back into nature the further they travel from the user. Boom! It suddenly clicks. Hearing that breakdown, the core mechanics of magic finally make absolute sense to him. His gears are turning. If the spell formula and the mana output are the exact same, there's gotta be a hack. He takes a sip, obsessed with finding a way to max out his efficiency. With a little giggle, the girl admits she might have brewed the drink way too thick. He just flashes her an easygoing smile. But mentally, he's still miles away locked in on his mana theory. Suddenly his eyes lock onto something, and you can practically see the light bulb go off. Staring dead at the murky liquid, he whispers that he finally figured out exactly what he needs to do. Seeing him totally zone out, the girl calls his name, her voice laced with low-key concern. Glaring into the mug, he visualizes jamming way more power into the exact same space. It hits him, isn't this literally the same concept as forming a legendary aura blade? Cut to somewhere else, a shadowy dude is spying on the whole squad through a viewing spell. Tapping a whip against his hand, he smirks about the notorious Aldrich family's heavy aura. He steps right onto a glowing magic circle, his eyes turning dead serious as he preps to make his move. "Let's keep our little friend quiet for now," he mutters. Right behind him, a massive shadowy beast materializes from the dark, waiting for the green light. Back at base camp, a professor is silently judging a squad of students who straight up rage quit the exam. The knocked out rookies are practically shaking, huddled up and waiting for their grades. She notes to herself that the dropout numbers are actually surprisingly low this year. That's because this current roster is totally cracked. Right on cue, another woman strolls up, announcing that it's finally time to flip the script. The newcomer flexes her title, dropping her name as Professor Isabel. The students instantly start whispering, totally freaking out. Is she the legendary Isabel of Destiny? Watching the magic projections unfold, she points out that the rival squad is absolutely dominating, which completely tracks for Class 1 elites. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, some absolute menace is casually flipping. When asked about Oscar's status, the professor drops a bombshell. His squad's tracking signal just vanished into thin air. Scanning the holographic map, her brow furrows. It makes zero sense, they were literally right there on the grid a second ago. Cutting back to the woods, our main squad is still catching. The rest of the crew is fully capitalizing on the downtime, trying to shake off the insane stress of the exam. But one guy refuses to slack off. He hops up gripping his wand and starts running drills right at the edge of the tree line. Nursing his drink, our main character is completely zoned into the dancing fire. Flashing back to that aura blade, he tries to dissect exactly how top-tier swordsmen pull off that insane technique. His mind races what if he could replicate that exact same destructive force using pure concentrated mana. Snap, a sharp sound rips through the silence. He whips his head toward the dark trees just as two of his teammates burst out screaming at the top of their lungs to run for their lives. The redhead scoffs, wondering if some low-level mobs just walked into a death trap. But before he can blink, a colossal pillar of pure hellfire explodes into the sky. The blast goes off point blank in front of the squad. The redhead freezes his jaw, dropping as he tries to process what just nuked the area. As the blazing smoke clears out, a terrifying shadow steps out of the dark flashing razored claws that look ready to tear them apart. A massive scaled foot slams into the dirt, shaking the ground as the beast fully steps out of the pitch-black woods. Boom! A literal towering dragon is standing right in front of the terrified. Their minds are totally blown. Everyone is paralyzed, mentally screaming, "Is that an actual freaking dragon?" The monster snaps its jaws wide open, unleashing an ear-shattering roar that shakes them to their core. The redhead is glitching out, stuttering that this spawn shouldn't even be mathematically possible here. A high-tier dragon spawning in this zone? No shot. His eyes go cold as the horrific reality sets in. They've been set up. Panicking hard, the rookies beg the redhead to pop the emergency escape scroll he already ripped up. Completely traumatized, the girl stammers, praying that this is just some insane nightmare. Gripping his weapon in sheer disbelief, he realizes they have absolutely zero choice but to fight back. She whips around, demanding to know if he is actually crazy enough to brawl with the dragon. His classmates chime in, swearing that with his defensive magic, they could totally tank the hits. But then it hits him: if they hold out too long, the teachers will definitely notice things are completely screwed up. Wasting zero time, he hoists his wooden staff high to shield the squad, smashing it straight into the dirt. He summons an earth spirit shield. A massive stone barricade erupts from the ground, but get this, it only boxes himself in. His classmates absolutely lose it, screaming at him for throwing them under the bus. He just screams back that he is going to make it out alive, even if he is the last guy standing. The crew is completely dumbfounded, flashing back to when he swore he would protect everyone. One guy starts panicking, blurting out that they are completely trapped because the beast has them dead in its sights. Clutching her staff, she braces herself, declaring they have to fight if they want to survive this nightmare. Firing up a glowing magic circle, she blasts a barrage of earth magic straight at the dragon. As the dust settles, the class stares at the smoke cloud, praying the hit actually landed. Stepping out of the haze, the monster looks completely unbothered, totally brushing off the strike like it was nothing. Someone shouts that basic magic will not even scratch this thing. She immediately yells that she will pull the beast's aggro, ordering Oscar to make a run for it. Completely overwhelmed, she spins around and locks eyes with our main guy, desperate for some kind of backup. With a dead serious glare, he stares right back, clearly cooking up an insane plan. Suddenly, the dragon spits 2 lethal energy blasts straight at the panicked squad. Trembling in absolute fear, one guy starts crying that he does not want to die. Convinced this is game over, jaws unhinged, the beast starts charging up an absolutely devastating strike. It suddenly shifts its attention to the girl, who gives it a totally bewildered look. Then it clicks for her. The dragon is literally draining mana straight from the air to fuel its insane blast. Our boy smirks to himself, realizing that as overpowered as this monster, that is literally its only trick. Channeling his own raw aura, he gears up to drop one of his brand new skills. Gripping his dagger tight, he declares a brutal reality check to see who is really the boss. Squaring up with the beast, he braces for its ultimate attack. Fine-tuning his massive energy flow, he locks in his new move. With an ear-piercing roar, the dragon unleashes a cataclysmic shockwave. Hunkered down behind a magical shield, the rest of the class watches in absolute horror, throwing his body over the girl. He shoves her clear out of the death zone. Going completely on the offensive, he blasts a blinding beam of pure power straight at the monster. Crashing directly into the dragon's jaws, the insanely heavy strike totally cancels out the beast's attack. The beam literally shreds through the creature's entire torso, dealing astronomical damage. Blasted backward, the dragon crashes down hard, while everyone watches the madness unfold. Still on the ground, the girl just stares at the aftermath, absolutely mind-blown. Standing tall in the wreckage, our guy silently judges the damage he just dropped, cutting away to a totally different spot. The camera pans up to a pitch-black, starry night sky. Watching his prized pet get utterly wrecked, the mysterious guy just scoffs. He thinks it is an absolute joke that some random freshman just clapped his deadly chimera. Completely shook, he tries to wrap his head around the insane magic that was just unleashed. Glancing over his shoulder, he wonders if anyone actually clocked his hiding spot, glaring with pure venom. He swears on his life to wipe that kid off the map. He then arrogantly claims that only elite nobles should be allowed to flex that kind of power. Jumping back to the forest, our hero checks out the total destruction he caused, sporting a cocky little smirk. He is hyped beyond belief that his wild strategy actually paid off. Clenching his fist, he can barely fathom that his brand new move. Hit with that much heat, he totally realizes this insane combat theory is something only a veteran swordsman could have ever cooked up. Down in the dirt, the dragon is out cold, looking absolutely decimated. The rest of the class just stares, trying to process if they actually just survived this boss fight, still cowering behind their shields. They peek out completely shaken to the core. Trapped behind his own pathetic rock wall, the cowardly redhead mutters that this whole thing is absolute nonsense. Then the bitter reality hits him. A literal commoner just saved his life, leaving him totally stunned in silence.